and I'm going to try not to constantly go over the same information. I tend to do it because of the new people. But one of the things I always want to mention is alternative media sources, so that we're getting some information instead of getting the regular propaganda all the time. And that's the Power Hour. And tonight we're gonna be hearing from Jimmy and Joanne Moriarty that were guests on there this morning. And they're going to be regular guests on the show every Monday. They're going to be doing 2 hours. Yes.
Wow. Great.
So that's the Power Hour, and I'm going to make a fact sheet. The suggestion was given to me, and I really appreciate any suggestions like this. And I'm going to have a fact sheet, and I'm going to bring it every time. And I'm going to help. I want you guys to help me. If someone new is here, actually a long time ago I was saying we need to have a new visitors packet or something, and have some information put together. Haven't done it yet, but this is a good start just by having a fact sheet that y'all can help. You can have a few extra ones, or I'll keep a pile up here. And like Helen is here for the first time tonight. I've protested, or not, well, I guess it's called protesting, yeah. We held signs at the end of the Fed, a rally, and other things that Helen's very active out on the street. And it's the first time. She's not a street walker, but she's here tonight, which is really nice. Make her welcome. And Eve is here. Eve is the one that usually tries to collect names and emails from people so that we can get you on the list. So maybe you can help get your name on there so that we can notify you of things. I guess I'll jump right in. We always talk about what has happened the week before, what we went to, what we accomplished, who we saw, what's happened, and then, of course, what's coming up. And we want to make everybody alert to the events that are coming up and where they're going to be. And as I explain, this thing I probably will explain every time, but this little fact sheet will help give more details to it, is that what the group does is we try to provide venues for people. We try to be available. We're here every Monday, and this is so that candidates can come here and have their few minutes to explain what's going on, or another group can come talk to us and tell us about what they're doing and when they meet. And also, we promote things that are going on, and we also use other events as an outreach. And there's going to be one of those this week. So this week on Thursday, there's going to be an event starting at 6 o'clock, and it's going to be at Fellowship Church, which is at 9330 North Central Expressway. It's the church that used to be a theater.
What is it?
The event it's actually a Republican event. It's a Republican event for Katrina Pearson. It's her kickoff event for her campaign against Pete Sessions, who is a congressman in the 32nd District. Yes, we know. We need to get rid of Pete Sessions. He is very unavailable for his constituents, which several of us in here are his constituents. And since June of last year, May of last year, we have been trying to get an appointment with him to sit down and talk to him in person and find out why he does the things he does and why he's so unavailable, which we know. We just want to report. He is the chairman of the Rules Committee, and he is blocking the Benghazi investigation still to this day. Weekly, I will call his office and I request a callback or some information, and I don't get it. It's past the point of unbelievable. It's just he has no regard. He doesn't care. He gets away with it. And as many people in our group are pretty disgusted with voting because it doesn't seem to make a difference. We still need to keep trying. We still need to try to prop up the candidates that will try to at least have a platform, because while the candidate is running, like Pete Sessions is, he has to be a little bit more visible, and you can catch him in his parking lot or somewhere along the way, try to get him on camera and hold his feet to the fire a little bit. Plus having those other candidates in the race, to bring some things to light that are being covered up, because the media has control of all the stations and everything else. So which, like I always say, we have to look for our sources that are going to be providing some truth. So that event on Thursday starts at 6, and it's on the northeast corner of Park Lane and 75. It's behind Bed Bath & Beyond. It's really a very large church. It used to be a theater, and they have a lot of events held there. So
What's the name of the church?
Fellowship Church. And now, Raphael Cruz is one of the guest speakers there. This is going to be, and I've already written it down, that and I made an event on Facebook. Now, we also have a meetup group, and it's called Activest for Truth and Liberty. And I really encourage all of you to go to Meetup, and then search it, and then go there and join it. Because we have 29 members, and there's a whole lot more people that know about us that should be on there than 29 people. The good thing about a meetup is you can go in there as an alias. I know a lot of people don't want to be on Facebook because, I understand, my son doesn't want, never want to be on Facebook or whatever. It's a good point, but I use Facebook as a, social media outlet, and it can really help the group like that. So I don't care. And I know, and as we've all seen, NSA is watching us anyways, so I don't know how secret we're going to be trying to avoid these things. We could actually use these venues. But the meetup group is a little bit more, it's not as into your information as much. I mean, it'll ask you questions, it'll ask for a picture, but it doesn't matter what you put on there. It's more for you to see the events that are coming up, and also to connect with people, and also to, so anyways, look up the meetup group there and join it, okay? And so, getting back to, I'm sorry I'm so kind of distracted tonight. David's not here tonight, but I've tried to stay on task here without him. This event on Thursday I'm using as an outreach because Raphael Cruz is there and he'll pull a big crowd. And the crowd that's coming will be our kind of people, probably. Raphael Cruz came here from Cuba, and he witnessed a lot of the things that happen in Cuba, so he likes to expose, Second Amendment issue and stuff like that. But the main idea is they're kind of people that are coming out to our meeting. So I want to hand out our flyers because we are going to be going to the City Council on the 5th, which is next Wednesday, okay? Not this week, but next week. And maybe Joanne will help. Well, you know what? Pass this around and take 2 or 3 or as many as you think you might. You already got one. Take a couple, as many as you think you will hand out. Because this flyer, we need to get in people's hands before next Wednesday, because it's talking about our event next Wednesday, the 5th. And this is for going to the City Council. 5 of us are going to be speaking about getting the fluoride issue on the ballot. And we're scheduled, 4 of us are scheduled to be speaking between 9 and 9:30 in the morning. And we want to have some people in the audience to clap. We're not allowed to hand things out. It can't be too rowdy or anything, but they'll know the difference that we're there. And that morning as we're going in, I should have a little button for everybody to put on. Something along the line of this, something small. Because if everybody's wearing something, even if it's just the F with the cross, you'll be standing out and people will know. So what's good about going to the City Council, I was, as we've been talking about, getting involved on the local level, is that you can have more impact, A lot of times, as we discuss peak sessions, they get so far removed from us, and they are almost guaranteed getting back in because of how the process works. They don't care that we keep calling them and we want them to do something different. I mean, when we did not want them to vote for different things, 90% of the people calling them would be telling them no, yet they still vote yes, And it gets really frustrating. But on the city level, we have more chance because they're closer to us. The percentage of how it works out as representation is divided better, and we can, I believe, make a difference. So, on Wednesday, when we go, the good thing about going to the city council is when you get on the schedule to the morning time, the speakers, you know you're going to be speaking between 9 and 9:30, and should be over by 9:45. So when you're asking people to come join us, it's not like, they got to take off half a day. It's just an hour in the morning. Be there before quarter to 9, and know that you're done by 9:45. There's parking meters on the street, and if you want to pay $1.50, there's a parking lot behind it, $1.50 for all day. So it's up to you. You enter through the back and go in, and I put it on here. You go up the red elevator to the 6th floor. So we need you to do this. The fluoride issue, I think most of the people in here, who doesn't know about how bad fluoride is? You don't have to go over that. We all, and the interesting thing is, almost anybody you talk to, I mean, when I have these printed, I'll say something, yeah, that fluoride's bad. I haven't met one person that says fluoride's good. There is an activist, that's not true, there is an activist that surprisingly, he always debates me about it, and he's smarter than that, but he just believes that there's nothing wrong with it and that we're being overexcited about something. But that's one out of many, 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 many. So,
Too much water.
so yes.
Well,
Okay, you just asked me one question, but I did want to point out that the opposition of fluoride is not just, quote, Tea Party, it really is across the board, that a broad spectrum of different kinds of people are against fluoride, and when it's 110 in the shade, a lot of different kind of people can agree on that. And I want to point that out, and I hope the speakers point out that this has broad-based support from the left, as well as right, and the center, and everything else.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope, and we keep trying, and we need to keep spreading that with people. This isn't, we are uniting everybody together, and that's what's so important, because the division is what's going to kill us. We have to find where we're alike on things and unite together. The division just lets the bad win, right? So we've got to keep doing that, and we are doing that moving forward. Moving on, about that, this power hour that I love to listen to in the morning, John Whitehead was on the 22nd of January, third hour, because her shows are all archived, and she, when you go to the show, you can see who was the speaker for the hour, and you can upload that. I was going to try and play it, but we'll do that next week. But basically, what he was talking about, he's a constitutional lawyer. He's been fighting issues like homeschool issues back in the 80s. And he takes on a lot of cases of children being taken and different things like that. He takes on cases that other people won't take, constitutional cases. So he was talking about how many people believe that voting just isn't going to work anymore. It's like there's a solution, but what can we do? And he is a big proponent for the local involvement. And he was saying, what we need is activist groups in communities, and I'm like, well, we already started that. So it's very encouraging, and that's what he's saying. I think this is really my idea too, is that if we could become a template, and I'm sure there's other ones all over the country, but we kind of show how you can do it, and you meet weekly, and you bring in all kinds of people, and you cross barriers and ideas, and you grow. And then you get involved in the city council and you make a difference and you show that it makes a difference. And then you give encouragement to other areas. And this is how you grow together, so that when we do want to do a million-man march on Washington to wake these guys up and show them, you'll have a way to get the people there. I mean, Martin Luther King did not pull that off in, just putting it out there. It was over a year's time. He had leaders and he had a network, and he built on that, and that's how it got done. So I hear people saying, well, we're going to march on Washington, and they set it all up, and 30 people come, I mean, it's the truth. The reason those bikers, I believe, got so many people there, which they did, was because they're already a family to begin with. They're already people that know each other. They're bonded and they're united. We need to do that as citizens of the United States, It doesn't have to be conservative or whatever. It's just people that are fighting the bad guys. This is a battle of good versus evil, truth versus darkness, and there's so many ways that, we need to bring down the big establishment corporatism that's going on in our country. Because as he was saying, Joyce mentioned something, and this is something I've wanted to talk about, but I don't know how to bridge it, but I'm going to bridge it like this. Okay, Article 1, Section 8, Clause, I don't have it written down right now, but it's in the Constitution where they're talking about it's a small area in D.C. that they can make laws over. And I've had people say to me, we just need to, relinquish our driver's license and we'll become a free man and all this. And, and it's as though we then won't have to live by their rules. But if they've got the guns and they've got the might and they're doing the things, you can do all that you want, but they're still going to be able to horn over you. They can do this to you. So this man was saying, the deal of it is in his city, what he did was, he said, we don't want to have drones. He actually wrote a paper, and we can copy this, so that if drones are in your area, and then this area, we're stopping some of this technology that's going to actually become the might over us, So it's all going to be like this, so we'll talk more about this as time comes, but, okay, so what else can we talk about? Okay, meetings, yes, sir, I keep saying hand. Okay, Albert?
One little point, Jimmy and Joanne, isn't your site LivianWarTheTruth.com? Well, on this flyer, the was left out.
Libyan War the Truth?
Yeah, so you might want to pencil in the.
Okay, at the bottom, Libyan War the Truth. What's your Facebook? The Truth. Libyan War the Truth. Okay, coming back to this one. Libyan War the Truth. When I make more, I'll fix it. Okay. All right. So the Power Hour has been our friend and has had the Moriartys on. The Moriartys are whistleblowers. That's another thing our group is. We help whistleblowers. Bradley Manning, we were out there sign waving for Bradley Manning. I mean, so much of America didn't even know about this young man. 1,000 days he was being held without being charged, with no pillow, no clothes, no glasses, and the guy was half blind. I mean, it was just atrocity what they were doing to him, and all he was trying to do was expose what's going on. He had found a tape, and it shows the atrocities that were going on with the soldiers and people that were dying. And he got in trouble for that. Well, now he's serving 35 years, but I believe he would have been maybe killed for that without the attention that was brought to it through our sign waves and everything else. So I do believe we make a difference, just like the bombing Syria. They were ready to do it. The Afghans know they were ready to do it. They were promoting it, and they were building it up, and they were talking about, just like they did in Kuwait, they bring up heartfelt things about why we need to get involved, these poor people, and they did it in Libya, and they went and killed Gaddafi because on trumped up lies, and they get our soldiers involved. Our boys are committing suicide at incredible rates because they go there and the things they see, the things they're told to do, it's mind-blowing how bad the spiral is. But we need to start turning it around, and I think it is turning around. And there's some very encouraging things about Libya. They're taking their country back, and it goes to show about how people sticking together, they can make a difference. We have our speaker here tonight, which will be coming on very shortly, talking about organizations like Sheriff Mack's organization, and talking about oath keepers, and holding the people that take their oath of office, to hold them to their oath of office and remind them what it's all about. So we're gonna, I guess, talk to the Moriartys right now, and they were on the Power Hour this morning, and you can catch us up with what's going on. Can you guys come up and tell us what's going on in Libya? Encourage us. Oh, yeah? We're not done. I mean, and they're not my guest speakers, but do you have something?
Well, it's a little more local.
Okay.
Okay.
Come on.
Hey,
I was just-
get in there. Microphone
Well, it's
is.
mostly a question. I saw something on InfoWars this week. It said, and it was Dallas, it said that they beefed up the ordinance. They put in an ordinance about the 75-foot rule. That you can't distract motorists, which includes signs, or even funny costumes. It's pretty much one of these vaguely worded,
Anything that will distract.
like you distracted me. Anyway, yeah, so anybody know more about that and how we're going to proceed? Yeah, okay.
Well, it says you can't be on access roads or bridges or on the highway. We were wondering about that because for the protest to go out in Rome on Sunday, that would be too close to something, so I think it's fine because it's not on the access road, it's on the private
Well,
property.
to tell you the truth, this has been on the books for a very long time.
Yes.
So, and it,
They beefed it up.
well, what happened was
Right,
during
right.
the Occupy time, but still, I still was doing these things, and policemen would come, and it was hit or miss, and, a few cases were made and pushed. And I know, Code Pink and, Veterans for Peace kind of actually wanted to make it, challenged it, they challenged it, and then it just came up and it was voted. But, there should be more challenges to it because, trucks that drive, that have advertisements on them, there's just so many other distractions that, this is really kind of, new in a way.
It's a First Amendment killer.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
That's what it's designed for.
Yeah, and the deal of it is, I personally still do it. I don't ask permission. I figured, well, just go do it and see what happens. 9 times out of 10, it works. I don't make an issue out of it if they come. I don't believe in causing a problem. I don't want, there to be an accident or someone hurt. So we're not doing it, in that vein. And the policemen that have always come, they've looked at us and they say, well, just don't hand anything out to the people as they're driving by. Don't step out in the street. It's reasonable. So, I don't know. It's just like with anything. I don't know. Your question was, what are we going to do about it?
Well, yeah, that was part of the answer. If anybody knew more, I didn't really follow up on it to see, how I don't know if I could follow up on it, to see how much the police are being encouraged or how far it's come along, what really is going to happen. I think it's mostly reserved like the NDAA, it's not necessarily anything going to happen, but if we do anything effective, that's when they're going to. As long as we're effective, we're okay.
Because of what Code Pink and, they were trying to get arrested.
So buying,
Yeah.
they keep taking who buying, who buying, who buying, who buying.
They just mean, when I read the ordinance, you can go to the city website and see it. It really just says not on bridges or service roads or on the freeway. It does say, it was a 75 foot rule. But, they went to the World Museum and did protesting.
Yeah, we went to the Federal Reserve Building and we were right there. And so, again,
Right, actually, people couldn't see us on the freeway.
Because it's techno.
So regular streets, it doesn't apply to like Northwest Highway or Greenville Avenue?
It's highways that it's.
and the interesting thing is the tollway, you can always do it over the tollway. Where it said, yeah, so you can do it on any of those overpasses over the
Central,
tollway.
30, and, things like
Why
that.
would you go there?
So you can do it there. Yeah, where said you can do it there. But, one of the events we have planned, although, it's been cold, is, the same day that we're going to, as an outreach to the Fellowship Church, this is over at Park Lane and 75, I made an event that we're gonna be doing a sign wave on that bridge. So, and it's gonna be Pete Sessions, Stop Blocking the God's Truth. We have vinyl banners, and, we're only gonna be here for a half an hour, and then go over to the church.
Bridges are specific.
I know. But, you know what?
It's an ordinance.
You get your press, make sure you have press.
There you go, get pictures. Yeah, we always have cameras rolling most of the time. But, you know what I mean? I don't know. Let's see what happens. This all goes back to, guys, is who are we getting on the city council? And who goes to the city council and talks about these things? These people vote on these things, you know, and how much pressure was put on when it was coming up for a vote. So it's activism, it's getting involved. There's 14 council people, a mayor and a mayor pro tem, and you need 9 votes to have something passed. So, did we do our job on this one? I don't know. Well, we have another chance. I bet we can bring it up, and we can, you know, we can say things again like, yeah, there's other things that are a distraction. Are you going to be able to have an ordinance against all those? But anyways, anybody that wants to come out and join me and whoever's going to come at the Clerk Lane and 75 Bridge at 5:30 to 6 o'clock. And we'll see what happens. So if you want to come, we'll see what happens.
Got a suggestion. Any of these protests, if you, there's an insurance called the Texas Law Shield, .com. So anything that's, any kind of protest that involves guns, they will represent you. So if you do a sign wave, you bring your AR-15.
That's funny. But Texas Law Shield, actually Texas Law Shield and that other one, what's the other one called? There's 2 of them. It's not just about gun issues. It's any issue you have. It's $19 a month, and you can call up and they can give you advice on a lot of different things. If you need information on that, I'll wait for you, Bob. So yeah, everybody, it's a good idea to
It's
have
worth
it.
it, you bet.
It's really worth it, yeah. So, anybody, have another event that's coming up? I know there's the Trans-Pacific Partnership,
Yes,
and I
that's
didn't
the
make one. Could you tell us about that?
Yes.
I'll make it tonight.
Yes.
Please do stand up over there for your, that way it gets shared with everybody.
Okay, this Friday, January 31st, is a National Day of Action against the Trans-Pacific Partnership and against Fast Track. And here in Dallas, there will be a rally during lunch hour, straight up at noon to 1 at Clybourne Park at Olive Street. And so that'll be the decked over part of Woodall Rogers. The city ordinance will not affect it. So you'll need to go to where Olive Street intersects with the park and the frontage road, and there will be people gathered there during lunch hour this Friday, January 31st, and that will be fitting my schedule. I will be there unless I have more health, stones or anything like that, but I do plan to be there. And I also wanted to mention this Wednesday, I think Virginia did post this on Facebook, but there's a screening of Food Incorporated at UT Dallas, which is free, is at 7:30. And the Johnson Performance Hall, which is in the Eric Johnson building. And I think if it overflows, they will open up a classroom, because that's what they did at the last lecture, where they had just a huge swarm of people. They opened up a second classroom, linked it up with a closed circuit TV, and so they were able to accommodate all the people. But that's a very hard-hitting documentary about food, health and safety issues, and I do recommend and a week after that, they will be showing Perfect Human Diet, which is a documentary made by a man who had a heart attack, and then he researched all these different dietary perspectives, vegan, low carb, anti-caffeine, and he produced a documentary exploring all this stuff. I don't think it'll be quite as hard as Food Incorporated, but I'm interested in it, and I'll definitely be going unless I have a health problem. And later in February let me get my phone here, on February 26th, in the same location, there will be a lecture about the food additives issue, things like MSG, HFCS, trans fats, and things like that. And it'll be followed by a lively discussion, and I expect a pretty big turnout. I'm going to post that on the A4TNL Facebook page so that people will know more about it. Later in April, there's going to be another lecture about GMOs, and the person who's speaking is for labeling. I myself am for abolition, and I just see labeling as kind of a stepping stone towards the ultimate goal of total abolition. But the person speaking is not like a pro-GMO shill or anything, and so that should be pretty lively. And I'll be posting that when it draws a little closer. Thanks.
Marjorie's very good about keeping us informed on so many things. Yes, we'll put an event on there, and that's what's a little difficult with people that aren't on Facebook. We have a lot of events on there, but we have the email list that we're going to be, doing a better job with, and the same thing when we have these events, you'll get an email blast about it. So.
The meetup thing.
The meetup thing will really help you, because those meetup ones, they will remind you like a week in advance and 5 days in advance and the day of, so that it's an automatic thing, and it really helps us because you do it once and then it follows up with the people. So please, consider that. Okay, well, it's one of the things that we have a candidate here that I'd like to have him give him a minute to tell us what he's doing. This is John Lawson, and welcome. Could you mention a bit about the court in no, it wasn't.
A little bit I know about it.
Okay, well, that they didn't open that court up?
No.
Okay, the opportunities there?
Okay, I'm John Lawson. I'm running for state senate in District 23, that's South Dallas. I don't know, when you go across I-30 going south, it looks like another country. When you come from this part of town and you go south, when you cross 30, it don't look like Dallas. It don't even look like America.
It looks like Memphis.
It look like communist South Dallas. Obama is talking about equalizing things. And what he means is, and one of the things I want to point out to black people, he's not talking about bringing black people up to the standard of white people. He's talking about bringing white people down to the standard of communist South Dallas. And we have to be careful about that. Because the only way that you can bring black people up to the standard of North Dallas is that black people participate in the capitalistic system, which we are not doing in South Dallas. Most all the businesses in South Dallas is run by people who are not residents of South Dallas. The Koreans own a lot of businesses. The Indians own a lot of businesses. A lot of foreigners, when they come here, they look for South Dallas because they know that black people buy everything and black people don't sell anything. And we don't have anything to sell, which is the reason for the poverty that we have in South Dallas. And I know it's fashionable for Democrats to say, well, you're poor because you're black. You're poor because of discrimination, segregation, and this and the other thing. But the truth is, people come here from Korea, they come here from all over. And this free enterprise capitalistic system works for them because they work the system. And the system would work for us if we were working. But we have been saturated with leaders who don't point us in that direction. All of these civil rights leaders. Now, you can march, demonstrate, protest, but marching, demonstrating, protesting is a bad economic plan. Because when you do protesting and marching and demonstrating and complaining and cussing out white people, you're not going to have any more money. And you're not going to have a foundation to build for your children. So it's going to be one generation of poverty after another generation. Now, and I'm going to say this, it's probably not very popular to say, but you can't rise higher than what you look up to. And if you're looking up to somebody or something, that means you got to be beneath them in order for you to look up. And I want to get black kids to stop looking up to these civil rights leaders, every one of them. Because these civil rights leaders, they don't have an economic plan for people that will help improve people. They're all Vegas. They beg, they complain, they march, they demonstrate, and you can't improve that way. So we have generation after generation of South Dallas residents, and all we look forward to, all they present to us to look forward to is food stamps, unemployment, and we gotta, even if we get a job, we gotta beg for that. Somebody else gotta give us a job because we are not doing any kind of business where we can employ one another. We're in a capitalistic country. Everybody that comes to this country come here and prosper. We here all the time and we can never prosper because we don't do the thing that's necessary to be done. See, farming is a system. You can have a very fertile piece of land and you can go on that land and you can stand there and look at it and you can cuss it out and you can demonstrate and you can march and you can protest.
That's good.
But at the end of the day, you're not gonna have a crop. Because it's a good system, but you got to work the system. The system is not gonna work you. You gotta work that system. And no matter how much you cuss everything out and cuss everybody out, you're not gonna have a crop in due season. You're not gonna have a crop, and we haven't got a crop in South Dallas. One of the things that I hope to do in my campaign is to distribute this DVD. It's called My Uncle 21. I want to break this cycle of infatuation and love that black people have for the Democratic Party. And one of the methods I'm going to use to do that is to point out to black people that the Democrats are dedicated to exterminating them, and they are killing black babies in record numbers. The Ku Klux Klan in 140 years were able to lynch 4,000 black people. The new Ku Klux Klan, which is Planned Parenthood, killed that 4,000 black babies every 2 to 3 days. When black people learn this, and see the thing about it, the news media, they only talk about abortion in terms of a woman's right to choose, a woman's health care right, but they don't talk in terms of genocide. They don't talk in terms of extermination. And once black people become aware of what's really going on in regards to abortion, we're gonna start acting and behaving differently as far as how we vote and how we elect people and who we look up to. So I need your help in this. If you will help me, in my campaign needs money. We gotta have people who would donate. You know, and one of the things, let me say this and I'm through. I'm gonna talk about that.
No, it's okay, there's a woman, I think, wants to ask a
The
question.
Bible says, the very stone, the builder rejects, is the cornerstone to the temple. Most all the Republicans that I know reject South Dallas. They say it's hopeless in South Dallas. We don't need to run no candidates down there. They got 6 state representatives in South Dallas. They got 8 state representatives in North Dallas. The 8 state reps in North Dallas, all 6 of them got Democratic challenges. The 6 state reps in South Dallas don't have any Republican challenges. So the Republicans have lost Dallas County, and they are setting themselves up to lose even more because they don't believe in challenging in South Dallas. They think black people are beyond hope. But I think that's a serious mistake. The Bible says, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. The truth will set you free from errors, misjudgment, mistakes. And black people need to be told the truth. And one of the things that we all know that has set this thing up so that you can't criticize black people. If a white person says anything critical of black people, he is automatically branded a racist. So what you gotta do, you gotta find another black person to go down in South Dallas and talk to black people and tell black people the truth. But at this point in a political campaign, I've got to get white people in North Dallas who believe in the truth, who believe in America, who believe in capitalism, to help support my campaign. That's what I'm asking you to do. So thank you very much.
Can we take some questions?
Yes.
And we have to say something for a statement. I know this one.
It very much bothers me, or I've heard it from other people like Octavia, Octavia, that the problem is Planned Parenthood. The problem is not Planned Parenthood. The problem is that there needs to be education. And black people need to learn about birth control,
Yeah.
where babies come from. Don't blame it on Planned Parenthood.
Well, you can't blame anybody. See, one of the things that Jesus had a problem with.
You were saying that Planned Parenthood is the problem because.
I will concur with him and say that Planned Parenthood is definitely a conspiracy to kill all of us. Period, the end.
I will say
I
this,
disagree.
80% of abortion clinics are in minority neighborhoods.
Well, they are because there is not an understanding there of how,
Where you guys go?
to not get pregnant.
It ain't about to get pregnant.
Excuse
You
me,
know,
I have a good question for you. Do you agree with sex education in school?
I don't know enough about how to.
Let me tell you what it is all about. They teach the girls to become whores and the sons to become sodomized. That's what they teach you with sex education. It's total brainwash.
Well,
It's a total brainwash.
I am not saying.
That's what they do.
the
That's sex education.
that they've been doing
Any
in school is
education
wrong.
that it come from the government for our own good, it's for the destruction of the society and the human race.
I am not,
That's what it is
I
all
am not
about.
saying that the schools need to do this.
They're doing it.
I'm saying the communities need to do
John,
They
how would you,
teach them to learn about sex.
Okay, I understand that, and it's been proven. But John, you're a pastor even. How do you feel about what she's trying to say is the culture of,
well, there's
what
no
is-
doubt, see, the philosopher said that it's better to be unborn than to be untaught, for ignorance is the root of misfortune. And the misfortune of black people has to do with the ignorance of black people. So I'm not disputing that. But the Bible says, if a man is overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such a one. So here black people overtaken in this fault, and here come Planned Parenthood come to murder. So you cannot defend evil on any level. You can't defend the black people for being ignorant, and you can't defend Planned Parenthood for killing them. So
I got down here, I was trying to get a teaching certification, but we live in Ennis. So I substitute taught for a year in Cedar Hill, Lancaster, tried, to go to Hutchins. And I'm the wife of an alcoholic. So I raised 3 kids on welfare. I've got 2 with master's degrees in business, another one with a bachelor's, and then my 4th boy is at Oklahoma State University. But I went to Al-Anon for 10 years. And when I went into those schools, of course, I saw young boys like my own. I didn't see the color, and I wanted to teach them. First of all, you don't have to beat that out of somebody if they hit you. You can defend yourself without taking revenge. The other thing, I tried to talk to them about relationships. And in this one class, I spent the whole class period, I had to tell them to not tell anybody what I told them. But those kids, I explained AIDS to them. I explained that even if they, caught it from somebody, it wouldn't show up in the test for 6 weeks, so you have to make sure that you're monogamous for, a longer period of time. Then, you have to make sure when you're, and those kids were so enthralled with what I had to tell them. They were asking me to come home and be their mother. One of them had a boyfriend. She was 15 and the boyfriend was 17. I said, if you got pregnant by that boy's gonna bolt, because you've got a 17-year-old boy that isn't even gonna start growing up till he's 20, 21, 22, if he ever does. I said, he has no concept of what is going to happen if you become pregnant. The girls become pregnant because they think that's going to keep their man, and those poor boys are running like scared rabbits away, and the girls are like, why didn't anybody tell me this?
yeah.
So, and the other thing I did was I was teaching them self-defense moves, and I ended up kids took pictures of me, so I got fired from Lancaster because I thought I was choking these kids. And I was trying to get them to learn how to, because I worked with the developmentally disabled. And this one
I wish you
little,
could teach them how to defend themselves against Planned Parenthood.
well,
Because
but they
no matter
were,
how many fights they
they were
get in,
soaking
they're
everything.
not killing as many of each other as Planned Parenthood is killing them.
Oh, absolutely.
So-
I had an abortion. One thing that I was in Connecticut, 1975, the year they made it legal. And because it was legal, I thought it was okay. Nobody explained it to me. You know, they tried to at the hospital. So what the last thing I was gonna say, this little boy, and I was teaching him self-defense in the classroom. He looked at me with, I swear, the eyes of an angel, and turned around to his peers and said, "She's trying to save her lives. She's trying to help us." And I come out of there and I say, is anybody gonna tell these kids the truth? They have to, children, you know, I told my kids about sex when they were like 6 years old, because I had never been told anything.
Yeah.
If you have to explain stuff to kids
Well,
over and over.
You know, one of the things about tyranny is that tyranny thrives on ignorance. So in the most ignorant part of America is black people. We came out of slavery, ignorant, and they appointed
But you can't
leaders.
do that in the schools. In other words, I couldn't substitute and tell them what I wanted to tell them,
No,
except,
not on the government's money,
right.
right? Because you when you work for the government, you gotta do what the government wants you to do.
We'll take this question.
This is a very interesting conversation. Historically, if I'm not incorrect about this, and statistically, the higher educated a group of people, the lower the birth rate. And I think one thing that would be very effective is for all the politicians involved to stimulate the local people to get locally involved in their educational system. I think that's one of the primary targets that we need to address. And make sure that educational system is bringing those children to a hopeful future. We had one fellow who spoke here of his work in the educational system, in which he was having the children set goals for years ahead and then lock them in a vault for some years.
Yeah. Well, one thing you're right about, because you know how a child performs today depends on the kind of hope that he has for tomorrow.
Exactly.
So, and the thing, you know, there's so much dope in South Dallas, because where there's no hope, there's dope, and none of the leaders in South Dallas can provide hope. All of those socialist, communist leaders in South Dallas can't provide hope for those kids. And so you have hopelessness, and you have dope, and you have despair. And see, in this capitalistic system is a system that black kids don't know anything about. You know, they see Koreans coming over here, don't even speak English. You know, set up a business and thrive and prosper. From India, they come over there, and but kids, nobody have told these kids how you can take $1 and make $2 with the dollar. They don't know nothing about that, right? And all they teach them is, see if you can get a good education so you can get a job, right? That means you got to get a job from somebody else that has a business, but they never tell them that they can have a business. You understand what I'm saying? So you have poverty, generational poverty.
That's an educational thing.
Everything's an educational thing, right?
I think really the black parents need to get very active along with you in addressing these issues and putting the demands on the school system, because the school system today is designed to make us dumb.
I think you know, first of all, the school system is part of the government, and we got to teach people, and so people can teach their children. And I don't think you can rely on the school system to do that, because they're not going to do it. In fact, they engage right now of dumbing down these kids from where they are now.
Let's go to John real quick here.
I haven't vetted this percentage that I've heard, but I have heard it told and spoken and taught that 51% of black children conceived are currently being aborted. Do you know if that's correct?
Oh yeah, it's worse than that. In New York City, 60%. Out of every 100 black women that get pregnant in New York, only 40 babies gonna be born, right? So they're murdering 60 babies out of 100, and that number is rising.
And what I understand is kind of what Albert said, but the best birth control known to man is prosperity.
Yes.
When families are prosperous over a generation or so, then the birth rates.
And nobody in South Dallas is teaching prosperity, right? They all, only thing they teaching is dependence on government and blaming and demonstrating and protesting. And, you know, that's just not an economic plan that can be successful. It has not been successful over the generations. And in fact, with the rise of Obama and socialism in Washington, it's getting worse. So,
I'm so proud. We have another question. But this is the second time John has run for this, and you're running as a Republican, but the Republicans are not helping him.
No.
You know, this is a shame. No, they're not. They're not. They're not helping him. They're working against him.
Yes.
Even anyways, they're working against him. They're putting money on the other side, which is absolutely horrible. No, it's not. So even though he's
last time I ran,
using the
John Corona, which
Yeah,
is
that's
the Republican senator from 16, he gave a fundraiser for my opponent, Royce West. Wow.
So
And Royce West already has over $1 million in his campaign fund. And,
politics, you know.
Yes.
So because he's trying. One last thing. This is Albert and.
The thing I wanted to say is there is no two parties in the United States.
That's what I'm
We're
getting.
the #1 communist country in the world.
Yeah.
And the proof of it, you can pull it out of the internet. Look at the 10th plank of the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah.
They push prostitution, drugs, and that's all business.
Yeah, homosexuality.
Everything.
They're pushing that real strong now.
They put it in your food. They're turning man to a woman.
Yeah.
A woman to a man, masculine.
Yeah.
The things that message that you need to take to your people is this. The sex education have to go out of the door. It's not for you and it's not for us and for nobody to take any suggestion from the government at all.
I agree with that.
Okay?
Yeah.
And homeschooling is the last thing.
Yeah.
Now,
Would you clearly say your name?
My name is John Lawson.
John
I'm running for
Lawson.
State
I
Senate
want
District
everybody-
23.
I want everybody to get that
District
clear.
23.
And on that card, the website says Lawson for 23, but it's John Lawson for 23, y'all. So you can go to that website. And,
Thank you, John, for
We
standing up.
appreciate you doing this.
Okay, now the Moriartys we're going to get here, and then I know we're running a little late to get our guest speaker on here, but that was quite an interesting exchange among everybody, and I hope you look into the statistics and see and for yourself. So, Moriartys, come on up here.
We could only apologize to this lady for raising my voice and stating my opinion. It's a sensitive issue that I've been studying for a while, and I couldn't keep quiet, and I apologize if I offended you.
Oh, good. We're glad. And that's what it's all about, is exchange. That's what's really important. I love that. We, you know, if everybody agreed, you know, we wouldn't have a problem, right?
We'll be real quick.
Okay, please stand over that way a little
And over
more.
here a little more.
Microphone.
A little bit of a lead-in. Let me introduce them for people that don't know them. This is Jimmy and Joanne Moriarty. And they're Lydian whistleblowers. And it's been a continuing story here. Yes, thank you for all They were on, and we won't get a lot of the past about that. You'll have to go to the website. And also, let me tell you, we have DVDs over here because a lot of the presentations are $5, they're only $5. And you can look about what topic it was, the first time the Moriartys were here, or what presentation or what topic. And it supports John. John comes here for free, and that's just to recoup for his DVDs, so he'll have them all the time and he can catch you up. So we won't do any background necessarily on the Moriartys, but they have some interesting updates about Libya, a positive update. And then whatever else you want to touch on for about 5 minutes.
And they have a DVD to sell, which is a 3-hour DVD for $10, which has a whole bunch of details about their story. If you don't know, you can get one for them.
Right.
Now, first, we were on the power hour this morning for 2 hours. And we had a professor, her degrees are in political science and economics. She's from Egypt.
Middle East and Africa.
She's an expert. One of her higher degrees came from the United States, one from England. Very articulate, very passionate.
She's in Cairo.
y'all need to go and listen to that show this morning, because she absolutely is a ball of fire. She tells it like it is. It was so heartwarming to see that gal. She, with a broken wrist, she went out in the street when the Egyptians took their country over. And she said, I walked out the front door, and either we were going to have our liberty or I was going to die. And this is the woman, you know, she's a senior person.
Yeah, she was born in 1952.
Yeah.
She's
So that's-
very well spoken. She talks about the brotherhood. She doesn't say Muslim brotherhood because to them, that's not part of
Have
their
nothing to do
religion.
with Muslims. But anyhow, y'all need to go to that. That gal is really on the button. And she's a historian. She knows the Constitution better, I think, than any of
She
us.
studied the Constitution here in the United States. Her name is Mervat Medcourt, doctor. She's a professor.
Go to that the power hour this morning. Second, we had a octogenarian call us. We had some long discussions with him. He's from Canada. And what he said, it was very, very touching but true. He said that the Americans, the United citizens of the United States, are the hope of the world because we have weapons and nobody else does. And he said, don't give them up. He said, because the only way this world stands a chance
It's by the
is if we
American
take this
people.
country
He
back.
said, you Americans, you armed Americans are the hope of the world. He said, you never hear that.
He is a very well, very articulate guy. He's from the Netherlands, lives in Canada. And he said, if you'd like to have the names of a few thousand other people all over the world, we'll tell you what they're doing. So that's touching to us. And then the last thing I want to tell you all about Libya, Joanne, you know, things have changed a bunch. Al-Qaeda, of course, is still continuing to be supported by the United States, France, and England. And they are now doing what in Libya?
Talk a little louder, Jeanette, okay?
Okay, the tribes of Libya, and understand that every person in Libya is a member of a tribe. This goes back thousands of years. And they aren't like, you know, living in camps or anything. They're just tribes. They belong to families and big groups of them. Because what happened when NATO blew up Libya against the will of the people, they put Al-Qaeda in Libya. 2 million of them are living in exile. 500,000 were killed, and they are doing a war genocide in Libya. There's 1 million homeless and 2 million that have homes, but they have no life. They can't even go to the store without being captured or shot or killed, and it's a terrible thing that's going on now. So the tribes of Libya have decided to take their country back. On January 17th, they went back into Libya in force. Not all of them, there's still a lot of them outside, and they took back the south of Libya. And the Tuareg tribe is one of the big ones, and the Tuaregs, and those are the black tribes, and they're fighting because their lives are on the line like everybody else. They own the south of Libya now. They own
They went there and attacked the weapons stores of Al-Qaeda. There's 250,000 Al-Qaeda imported from all over the world, paid for by the United States to go in there and take over that country. And now they call themselves militia, but they're nothing but psychopathic gangs of murderers. And there's a whole bunch of those gangs of murderers, and they fight each other, and they kill everybody they want to, and they rape the women they want to, etc. And so these Libyans, with very, very few weapons and everything, went in there and they're taking the country back.
They are fighting our
Clawing
battles
everything.
right now. They are killing Al-Qaeda because they hate it. They hate, these groups have, this is what Dr. Medford talked about today. She says, we are in danger. We are in fear of our lives. And she said, what do you have? You have your choice. Do you want fascism or do you want liberty? So you step up. And she said, we Egyptians, we're happy to come and support the Americans to do what we do.
The reason they were successful didn't have anything to do with publicity or groups or anything, is their situation was so desperate that they bound together as a people. And they crossed all boundaries of race, creed, and color, and social order and everything. They went to take their country back.
33
They had no
million
choice.
Egyptians took to the streets.
Now, we're in that shape here.
33 million.
We are in that same shape here, we just don't know it yet.
But let me finish reading for you right now. They're fighting Tripoli, and the cities around near the Mediterranean are the ones that Al-Qaeda wants to hang on to. They've basically written off the South, even though the puppet government has hired planes and pilots from the Sudan and Qatar planes flying and bombing the people in the South. Because the Libyan people wouldn't bomb their people, they refused to go. So they've hired mercenaries to the tune of $25,000 apiece to come in, and they are using sarin gas on the people around Tripoli.
Cluster bombs.
The Worship Fauna tribe has been hit with sarin gas a number of times now. We have the
Sarin gas, phosphor bombs,
The UN,
and babies.
the representative of the UN is in Tripoli, and he lives there, and the Libyans say he sleeps with the enemy, he works with the enemy, and he eats their money.
And makes no report.
Makes
He's
no
there, hears
report.
the bombing all the time, not saying anything about it. Now, this has been going on all over a week, but these folks are fighting with their fingernails to get their country back, and they're killing Al-Qaeda.
And they say, like these Egyptians, we either die or we take our country back, because we have nothing without it. And they hate Al-Qaeda, so.
You go to our website, you'll see we keep updates on that all the time.
Isn't Al-Qaeda the government of the United States?
It's CIA, yes, but what happened is,
Isn't that what it is all about?
yes, but here's what happened. This rabid dog that the CIA is trained and taught how to cut off everybody's heads, and they started with psychopaths. They now it owns Libya, and that rabid dog is biting the hand that fed it. So Libya says, you know, in bad and poor English, the Al-Qaeda said, screw you all, we own this country, we've got all this money, we've got all these natural resources. From Libya we can stage to all over the world. So they're biting the hand that fed them. Chris Stevens was their gun runner. He fed them guns forever, way before the revolution started, and they killed him. That was a sign that they own that part of the world. And Morsi was a supporter of them. Morsi and Obama are buddies. Morsi and the Clintons are buddies. You know, this is incestuous amongst the guys running this government and the brotherhood. As the doctor said today, she said, I won't give them credit for the name Muslim, because they're not.
She asked, she said, how does your government give Morsi $8 billion of your money to buy some of Egypt that belongs to us to give it to the Brotherhood? She said, how does this happen?
And that's what
You
we
know,
know about.
they know this. She said, how does someone like John McCain come to our country and tell us how we should live? And who should run our country? Who is he? You know, I mean, exactly.
Since you have so much knowledge, you know, what is the district of the criminal in the United States? Do you know where it is?
Yeah,
Tell me.
Washington, D.C.
Oh, it's right there.
Well, keep listening now, the power hour.
That's their website.
Okay.
LibyanWarTheTruth.com.
LibyanWarTheTruth.com.
That's our
And
website.
we're going to be on the Power Hour every Monday for 2 hours, 8 to 10 from now on. And next Monday, we're going to have probably a journalist from Syria. We're going to get the inside story about really what happened in
We have
Syria.
all that too. The tribes all work together. The tribes of Syria, the tribes of Egypt, the tribes of Libya. They all work together. They all know each other.
So, I know that, if not all of us, were out there protesting the bombing of Syria. So, I mean, maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever, it was hard to believe that we were implicated with a lot of these things going on, or that lies were told to get our soldiers into Afghanistan or different places. But it's becoming more evident to more people all the time. There's a lot of bad games being played, and it's really sad how many people died and how criminal it is. It's just really, really, really criminal. So, stay abreast, keep informed. Thank you very much for sticking your necks out, guys. Don't forget, they got a DVD. Let's see, other groups that meet, the 9/11 Truth, they meet on Thursdays at Barbex. It's another way to, oh, there's Bruce up there, yeah. They meet on Thursdays. This is what's good to unite. I don't know if anybody else, any other group, Helen, that you know meets at different times that you can mention?
Well, we move on, it's the first Sunday of month, and that
Oh, that's good to know. The first Sunday of the month at La Madeline.
ACE, action, whatever ACE.
I'm really bad with acronyms too.
The Albert is, involved with, they're meeting later in the day.
Still on Sunday.
Can you repeat the information?
I'll repeat the information, or do you want to repeat it louder? Okay, so Sundays at La Madeline on Lemon. The first Sunday. The first Sunday, La Madeline on Lemon. What time?
2:33.
2:30 or 3. Think about 2:30. And what's good, we gotta all remember, La Madelines are so nice to let us use these rooms. We need to help support them with a cup of coffee or a couple dollars or something. That's really important that they allow us to come back and use their space. But the Move On group is another group that they do a lot of protests for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, just lots of things. And they're very organized, and I've been out there with them. And the other one?
Well, I was mentioning, ACE.
ACE, whatever it stands for.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Something
know.
about Coalition for the Environment.
Okay,
Anyway, they were meeting conflict in July, but now they're starting to meet more at 5
okay.
at the
Is it
ACE
still the
office.
first Sunday at the La Madeline on Lemon? It's really good that we unite with with all these groups, because like the Monsanto group, we help them a lot. Jessica Winters is a real close friend. She's been here before, and all these bad things that are coming in our life, we have to unite together. Albert has something to mention.
Where on Lemon is that?
Just the other side of Oklahoma.
Other side of Oak Lawn.
Well,
It's
further
about,
down.
Northwest.
Are we gonna move today?
No.
Further west.
West, yeah.
Okay.
It's the first Sunday.
Sunday, the first Sunday.
Oh yeah, we always mention the open carry event, which is actually called Come and Take It, Come and Take It America, CATA, and it's Dallas. Come and Take It. That's the open carry. It's the third Saturday of the month at 10 o'clock in the morning, Dealey Plaza, also known as the Grassy Knoll. And this is just exercising our Second Amendment rights.
Bring your AR-15.
There you go. Come and walk with them. Go have lunch. It's not the gun. It's the bad guys. So we
I
got,
only have a shotgun, but he said I could bring it.
as long as it's a long gun, it just can't be a short gun.
It
Okay.
could be a black powder.
What?
It could be a black powder.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. Hold on. Albert, I think, was first. Go ahead, Albert.
I just got a kind of a fake little publication from the Dedmon School of Law at SMU, in which they had hosted the Warren Commission members who were remaining, and they just absolutely blessed them for telling the truth. I was disgusted with it.
There you go. Okay. Now, Marjorie.
yes, the Prometheus Project,
Oh, yeah.
which is an anti-GMO
That's a great
organization. It's affiliated with the Institute for Responsible Technology, meets on first Saturdays. And this is going to be February 1st at 3 p.m. at Park City's Yoga. And where that's located is the Preston Forest Shopping Center. Not Preston Forest, I apologize. Preston Royal.
Upstairs.
It's a little two-story building on Royal on the south side of the street, just a few steps west of Preston. And you go inside the building, you go upstairs, and it's one of the offices. I don't know the address off the top of my head, but I will look that up and I'll put that on the Facebook
Put it on
page.
Facebook, and every week we'll make an email to everybody that we have the email of the upcoming events. We did that last week, and we'll do it on a regular basis, where they're located. Okay?
Okay.
Sounds good. All right, I think we're good. Let's get to our speaker for tonight, Kurt Lanius. Kurt Lanius ran against Lupe Valdez for sheriff, and he's a former military man and police officer, and he knows the importance of a sheriff. And he went to Sheriff Mack's seminar over the weekend. Sheriff Mack is from Arizona. And a lot of you don't know who Sheriff Mack is, but if you look him up, he's awesome. And he'll give you a story about what he heard about over there. I'll give the floor to him. Do you have enough room here?
Well, I think so.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, Regina. I don't know if this is going to be, this will actually be more painful for you to listen to than it will be for me to deliver. So this is what happens when you go out to the desert in Las Vegas and then you come back to Texas, and I usually don't have many allergies, but I hear that the, what is it, mountain cedar?
Cedar, they say cedar.
Yeah, so that must have got you. So I still feel pretty good today, but I think as the temperatures drop, my voice is trailed up. These may be the last words I utter all week, but I can't think of a better group to share it with. And I've just been praying today that God would bless me the right words to say. There's just too much to cover, and I'm going to kind of keep this short.
Well, as long as it's 9 o'clock or so.
Yeah.
So you got a good 30 minutes.
Okay, and I may not even go that long, and
Okay.
I'll be happy to come back, and I'll get my contact info so any of you can contact me. My goal tonight is to raise some issues and some concerns about not only things going on in Dallas County and in Texas, but across the country. And the way that sheriffs, the county sheriff, is being, county sheriffs are stepping forward to push back against tyrannical forces in our country. And first of all, I want to thank Regina for putting this group together. I did participate in the protest about Syria down there a few months back, and I was really compelled. As you mentioned, I'm a military veteran, I'm a Navy veteran, and I have to think long and hard about my fellow brothers and sisters, soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, and how they may be, used, what situations they be put in. How many of you are veterans in the room? Do we have any? Brad, here?
I'm a veteran of Poland Legion.
Okay. Thank you for your service. As Regina mentioned, I'm a former Dallas police officer. I used to work in Southeast Patrol, and I can speak to many of the issues that Bishop Lawson was describing. I'm now a businessman. I have a private security consulting firm, and I teach entrepreneurship to young people, especially inner city youth. I have one young man. He graduated from the Dallas Can Academy. He wants to start a trucking company. That's just his goal. Someone in his family drove trucks, and he wants not only just to be a driver, but own a company one day. And I thought, well, this guy's worth helping and teaching entrepreneurship. So, in fact, I'm going to talk to you, Bishop Lawson, a little bit more about that program. So, I like to be among people, who really, put their money where their mouth is, and not people just of words, but of action. And, there's every reason, just as last week, I gave up 2 days of my very busy business schedule to go to Las Vegas, which sounds like a lot of fun, but I promise you, the first thing I did when I got off the plane, and I had 2 colleagues with me, one who, a friend from high school who was very active in my campaign for sheriff, Colin McKinney. And yes, Collin County and McKinney, Texas, they're the names of his great-grandfather, who was the eldest signatory to the Texas Declaration of Independence. And then Dallas Police Officer Tom Haney, who's a 31-year veteran of the Dallas Police Department. So Dallas was represented, even if our sheriff, whose name you mentioned earlier, was not. And in fact, she's been invited to all of the Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officer Association events. There's been 4 major conventions or conferences. And I think someone in this room actually delivered that personal invitation to her on each occasion. And she's never found it worth her time to attend. And the sheriffs at that event know who she is, but they know who she is for other reasons. And not really the reasons that we need to push back against tyranny. She's not known for that. But I want to tell you at the end of my presentation about a female sheriff in Texas who you could be really proud of. And she's a military veteran. She's the sheriff in a small county south of here, and I'll tell you a little bit about her later. Awesome gal. And she's leading quite a movement right here in Texas that you need to know about. So I'm going to try to highlight some of the key people that I spent time with this past week. Before I do that, I just want to start with kind of set the stage for the way I've been thinking the last few days. This comes from the 10th chapter of Isaiah. It says, "Woe to those who decree iniquitous decrees, and the writers who keep writing oppression, to turn aside the needy from justice, and to rob the poor of my people of their right." Does that sound like the times we're living in? This chapter goes on to talk about the judgment on arrogant Assyria. And down in verse 33, it says, "Behold, the Lord God of hosts will lop the boughs with terrifying power. The great in height will be hewn down, and the lofty will be brought low. He will cut down the thickets of the forest with an axe." So that's a warning, not from me, but from the Creator of the universe to those who hold power arrogantly. And they've done so throughout the ages. Some of those are in elected office. Well, I say elected. Maybe they were elected, maybe they weren't. We had a speaker last week several speakers talked about election fraud. and actually told us ways that we are being defrauded in this very county. And I've talked to numerous people who have been around it very closely, and they tell you exactly the mechanisms. And nobody seems to care. You can write the Secretary of State's office, the Attorney General. You know, sometimes politicians, when they're in an election fight, they don't want to hear anything. They want to just take a pass on things. Well, we need to take a pass on voting for such people. Arrogant politicians who block the investigations of the deaths, the murders of our brave servicemen and women. And not just in Benghazi, but Google or go to Bing.com and look up Extortion 17. And I'm privileged to know people and have worked and served with members of the Special Forces community. This goes back even before my service in the military. In college, I read a book by Colonel Charlie Beckwith. It was on the history of Delta Force. And he was known as Charging Charlie. He was drafted by the Green Bay Packers. He could have had an NFL career. And he passed all of that up. Sacrificed all of that and went into the military. And an amazing man. And I read that book when I was at the University of Texas at Austin. And at the end of the book it said, Colonel Beckwith is now retired in Austin, Texas. He runs a private security firm. And I said, I have to find this man. And this is before the internet, so I went through the phone book, looked up every Beckwith, called every Beckwith in the phone book. Finally got a lady, she said, that's my uncle. I said, would you ask him to call me? I got a phone call from Colonel Beckwith, and he said, come on over. And we talked for hours. I was writing a report for a speech class, and visited with him several times, and very gracious. His company trained drug-sniffing dogs going to high schools to sniff out drugs. Here's this incredible warrior who literally took a gut shot that should have taken him out. He survived that. He was famous for when they brought him into the hospital, the field hospital. He said, I didn't come in here to die, basically. And he just told them that you could speak your intentions, and the voices show up sometimes. And I think that's what we do through many groups like this. And I'm privileged to speak to a lot of different groups. There's people around town. Who knows when someone might watch the presentations from this group? It could be weeks or months or years later, even after some of us are gone. But if you're speaking truth, and that's what I like about this group. It's not partisan. It's not about party politics. Just getting to the truth and giving a chance. There's so many people that want to suppress the faith. What are they afraid of? I frankly don't care what they're afraid of. I just know what the founders of our blessed nation established. And so, as part of our conference, we had some really great presentations by some awesome people, some of whom are going to be passing through the Dallas-Fort Worth area in coming weeks. So I'll make an effort to tell you about them. And earlier today, not knowing if my voice was going to cooperate, I went ahead and made some little graphics so you wouldn't have to put them in electronic and little videos. So when I mention a website, I'd like for you to write it down. And if any of you need some paper, I don't have extra pens, I'm going to pass this around. This is actually the CSPOA, which is Constitutional Sheriff's Peace Officer Association.
Can I hold this up for you so they can see it?
Well, at the appropriate time, yeah, if you don't mind, if you want to maybe just take a seat.
I'll just sit in.
Okay, that'd be great. And so I'm going to pass this around. This is actually the Bill of Rights on this. So pass this around, and if you will, and make some notes on the Bill of Rights there so you can write down some of these great websites. And then those people watching can go to Bing or Google or whatever your favorite search engine is and look them up. So this is the program from the CSPOA conference. Again, this was the 4th event. There was one in Las Vegas about 2 years ago. There was another one in Las Vegas in September of 2012, which I attended. We had a really great one in St. Charles, Missouri last year. And that was, that's shown in these DVDs. You can order these at cspoa.org. And I hope you will. All the money goes to support the organization. And I hope after I tell you a little bit more about what the CSPOA does and why the Office of the Sheriff is so important that you'll join the CSPOA. And I do have some membership forms. You can join as a civilian. And let me start these around too. Go ahead and just, everybody take one, I think I have enough. Even if you don't join tonight or this weekend, you can make copies of those and pass them on.
I already joined.
Did you? Fantastic.
I gave them the credit card and say thanks.
Oh, that's great. That's what we need to have now.
What's it stand for, CSPO?
Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officer Association. The founder of that organization, I'm sorry, these aren't in the right order. I'll find the one for you. Let me just go ahead and start with Sheriff Richard Mack. Actually, I think I'll just hold it up here. The camera view, you've got it where, no, I don't mind, I think you can hold it up. Sheriff Richard Mack, retired sheriff from Arizona. And he was one of the sheriffs that was named in the Supreme Court case back in the 90s. It was a 10th Amendment case. And this little booklet. When you're carrying your pocket constitutions, I recommend you get one of these tonight. These are available tonight for $1. That's what I paid for them. CSPY. This is a little summary booklet that Sheriff Richard Mack put together. It's the Victory for State Sovereignty, the Mack Prince decision. Basically, that was a landmark case in which the federal ATF came to Arizona and decreed to the sheriffs, this is back under the Brady bill in the 90s, that those sheriffs were going to have to do all kinds of background checks and things that didn't have any kind of federal funding associated with them, but including mental health checks. And Sheriff Mack pushed back against that, went all the way to the Supreme Court. They won the case. It was a 5-4 decision. Justice Scalia wrote that majority opinion. It's outlined in this booklet. I'm not going to attempt to explain everything, but I'm going to pick from just a few portions of that. This was stated by the district federal judge in Arizona, Judge John Roll. Quote, Mack is thus forced to choose between keeping his oath or obeying the act, subjecting himself to possible sanctions, end quote. Now, Judge Roll, by the way, was murdered in a Safeway parking lot about a block from my sister-in-law's house where my niece and nephew lived. The Safeway grocery store that I frequented whenever I visited Tucson. That was the same day Gabby Givers was shot. You may recall that. And he was instrumental in this case. And you notice that Judge Roll said that Sheriff Mack had a choice to make between keeping his oath or obeying, did he say the law? Remember, this is a federal judge. He said the act. Okay. Well, okay, I'm going to explain that. Let's go to our Constitution because there's so much nonsense out there, all these politicians that... I heard a guy the other day claiming to be a Second Amendment supporter. Someone was talking about ear protection. He was just baffled. He didn't know what anybody was talking about. Ear protection. You know? Yeah. Protecting your hearing when you're shooting.
Yeah.
The guy's a great Second Amendment supporter, right? Big gun enthusiast, doesn't even know what ear protection is. What an idiot. And these are the people that are wanting their votes. But in Article 6 of the Constitution, it says, second paragraph, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof. In pursuance thereof. Pursuance of the Constitution. So if something is not made in pursuance of the Constitution, is it law? It's not law. That's what Judge Roll was saying here. Okay? It's an unlawful act. And those of you who've been in the military know what service members are required to do in the face of an unlawful order. We all know about Nuremberg, and there's no excuse there. So, another term that Michael Perutka, who was one of our presenters, Michael Anthony Peruka, founder of the Institute on the Constitution, co-founder, and the website is theamericanview.com. He calls it pretended legislation. So just to get over this hump, I want everyone to repeat after me. Pretended legislation. Pretended legislation. Say it again louder. Pretended legislation. That's really hard for a lot of people to fathom. People say, how can you stand up there and talk about such things? You know, our duly elected officials, they pass these, fill in the blank. Is it a law? When is it a law? When it's in pursuance of what?
The
The
Constitution.
Constitution. And if it's not, it's an unlawful act or
Pretended
legislation. So, we had a great presentation from Michael Peruka on that. So again, you can get a copy of this booklet. It's very short. It's designed to fit right in there with your pocket constitution. And this is even being used in South Carolina to push back against Obama. Because one of the key statements in this decision, and this is law, this is the most significant 10th Amendment. It wasn't a Second Amendment case. It's a 10th Amendment case. Because, as Justice Scalia said, the Constitution protects us from our own best interests. It divides power among sovereigns and among branches of government, precisely so we may resist the temptation to concentrate power in one location as an expedient solution to the crisis of the day. This was written many years ago. It sounds like everything we're facing today.
Again, what is that booklet and where do we get
You
it?
can get it at cspoa.org,
Okay.
or you can get it at sheriffmac.com.
And what is the title?
It is The Victory for State Sovereignty,
Okay.
Matt Prince versus USA, the monumental Supreme Court case that restored the 10th Amendment.
Thank you.
This is all about restoring things. This isn't a revolution. And the jokers that want to pin, you know how they treated Pastor Roden when he ran for Congress? Revolutionary. We're reading from the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Okay? Those are people who were unfortunately educated. We were talking earlier about the educational environment in America. And we're not trained in the Constitution. We've never learned the Constitution properly. We had 3 constitutional lawyers at this event. And they all said, and they went to the best law schools in the country, said they don't teach the Constitution in law schools. They teach case law. There's a huge difference. Police academies don't teach the Constitution. I volunteered for a committee while I was in Las Vegas. I guess I don't have enough things to do these days, but I'll find the time. It's a committee to draft a standardized curriculum for law enforcement academies to teach the Constitution.
That's a great idea.
And as I mentioned, I'm a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin. I have a degree in economics. And I'm a graduate of the Dallas Police Academy. And I'm proud of those things, but I do know, too, that I've learned a lot more outside the walls of classrooms than inside. And I have many friends who've never been to college who are far wiser people than myself. And I think we need to recognize that wisdom and always seek the truth. And not take this cheap substitute. I heard recently about some politicians that their sons or daughters couldn't get into UC law school, so they were some kind of shenanigans going on behind the scenes. And, you know, power, what is it about absolute power corrupts?
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Power corrupts.
Now, everything that, all the delegated powers are outlined. You know, Article 1, Section 8 talks about this in our Constitution. Basically, they fall into 4 categories: war, peace, foreign trade, and external relations. It's always outward-looking things. The Constitution is designed to limit the federal government, protect their rights. One thing you'll notice, it says in Article 1, Section 8, goes through the list, and then gets to this part: to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia. Constitution.
The time is now.
Ooh, militia with a capital M. That's going to scare a lot of people, isn't it? And for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. You know, when I started reading the Constitution, I actually started learning the truth about our form of government. In the dual spheres of sovereignty that Justice Scalia talks about. Because as the 10th Amendment says, those powers not delegated to the federal government are reserved to him. To the states and to the people. So if we didn't delegate those, then they're not powers of the federal government. And that's why so many of our problems today can and should be solved at the state level. Of course, the Second Amendment, a well-regulated, What's that word again? Being necessary to the security of a free state. Michael Perutka talks about only one time is anything mentioned in the Constitution as being necessary. That's the only time. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. But so many Americans are just blissfully ignorant of our Constitution and our founding documents and our history. And Thomas Jefferson said in an 1816 letter to Colonel Yancey that to be ignorant and free is to wish for what never was and what never will be. So we have to teach our young people and ourselves by setting that example. And to that end, Mr. Perutka, through his Institute on the Constitution, has provided me with a course. It's called The American View of the Constitution. And some of you may have participated in other training courses regarding the Constitution. By the way, you can get that at theamericanview.com. You know, Heritage Foundation and what's the college that has, that we always talked about? Hillsdale has an excellent training program for that. This is one of several, but I want to. Yeah, there's no excuse these days. With the ubiquitous nature of the internet, everyone should have access to these training courses. Oh, it's right here. That's why I put them together. So, the American View of the Constitution. There is a God, the God of the Bible. Our rights come from Him. The purpose of civil government is to secure our God-given rights. That's the basic foundation of this course. And again, if you go to theamericanview.com, and I encourage you to, you can access those materials. And they've created a special program for law enforcement where a sheriff, excuse me, and I wish our chief of police would do this, but sheriffs will be able to set this up where their officers can log in and study this over time. And it's really, even though we were in the police academy for 38 weeks, we just kind of blew through the Constitution, I think, in a day. And no one's ever there to really tell you what the basis for these things are. I saw an interesting video a while back where this was after one of the incidents where there was some crazed person shot up some gun-free zone. I don't go to gun-free zones. So they had a town hall where Anderson Cooper, I think it was, had this town hall. And you know, if it's got a big production value and a big audience and lots of lights, then it's got to be the truth, right? Anything that would happen in a small back room of a restaurant could be more truthful, could it? And Sheriff Brad Rogers from Elkhart, Indiana was there. He's one of our CSPOA members. And he dealt with Amish farmers who were having SWAT team raids, to come in and seize their fresh milk and all this crazy stuff. And so he was at this event, and he was speaking many of these constitutional truths. And one of these people who's gotten an expensive degree but never really learned the Constitution, Jeffrey Tubin, who's ABCU's expert, legal expert. Notice they don't say constitutional expert, because nobody's qualified in that organization. But he's trying to school Sheriff Rogers on the supremacy clause. And in his stupidity, basically said that anything that the federal government issues or utters is trumps state law. And that's just a complete bastardization of the supremacy clause.
It does on TV.
Remember the in pursuance part. And there's many unconstitutional acts or pretended legislation that are not in pursuance of the Constitution. And it's the sheriff's role, quite simply, to interpose and stop that. And our legislatures to nullify those unconstitutional laws. Which doesn't mean that I'm a lawless lord. I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution both in my military career, excuse me, I told you it was going to be, and as a peace officer. So, no, not at all. I'm not advocating anarchy or living in a lawless society. I'm simply standing up for the oath that I took to support and defend this, the Constitution, and the true laws, those made in pursuance of the Constitution. But I suspect the Dallas Morning News and other such publications will come after me, as they did Pastor Rhodes and others, to try to belittle these foundational views and push. Someone mentioned the Communist Manifesto earlier, and the planks that have been since the 1940s, 50s, has been checking things off the list. Control of our school system. The education system is a big part of it. Yes, sir.
I have a question. I had read about and heard about for some years now that in the military they've been passing a little circular around, a questionnaire. One of the questions of which was essentially, if ordered to, would you fire upon the American public? And I understand that about 72% say basically, hell no. But the other 28% get preferential jobs with local police departments.
Yeah.
Are you addressing this
Well,
issue?
I don't know about the part about getting jobs with police departments. I mean, obviously, police departments are recruiting through many different sources around the country. They spend so much money to go to other cities to recruit, there's just not enough qualified applicants. So, I'll look at, if you have some information that you'd like to share with me later on that, I'd love to look into that. Yeah, there's just so many people that are not willing to question. And military members or police officers or sheriff's deputies who would say, well, that's just not in my job description. I just go do my job every day, do what I'm told. And, that's not what, when you take that oath, it means that there's no expiration date to that oath, that you will support and defend fully the Constitution of the United States. You're not taking that oath to any particular individual, to the Constitution. So, if there, to the extent that there's a wrong understanding, that has to be corrected through education. And it can be.
It is my understanding that the Constitution of the United States have two parts. It's the corporate Constitution, and our Constitution is a little bit different than others.
Yeah,
They're aware of that.
Yeah, and without getting into too much detail on that, I'll just encourage you, we mentioned several other sources for constitutional education. I have a complete catalog of that. So Michael Peruka was one of our presenters. And then we had a update on Sheriff Jeff Christopher. Sheriff Christopher is the sheriff of Sussex County, Delaware. And Joe Biden's son, Bo Biden, who's the Attorney General of Delaware, has been involved in this scheme with the legislators, some of the legislators there, to basically declare the sheriff has no arrest powers. Okay. And that's tied up in a court battle. But I would encourage you to read about Sheriff Jeff Christopher and donate towards that cause. We've raised and donated a significant amount of money through CSPOA I've gotten to know Sheriff Christopher very well, and, at the level of his county commissioners, there's only 3 counties in Delaware. They've removed, all the vehicles and taken away funding to where he can't basically do his job as a conservator of the peace, even though their state constitution describes him as the conservator of the peace. So common sense would tell you, if you're going to conserve the peace, you have to have the ability to arrest lawbreakers, right? But somehow the people of Delaware have let that slip. In Connecticut in 2000.
There are no lawbreakers, something like that.
Well,
They don't exist.
what is a criminal? A criminal can be a person with a gun. If you're, God forbid, on the way out here to your car tonight, you stops you on your way to your car, puts a gun to you and takes your money. But then you might actually reach your car and find a paycheck in there, and the money's already been stolen. You may have an unlawful act that has some sort of financial penalty attached to it, and there's not a big difference. I mean, there's still
Like a traffic ticket?
criminal act. Yeah, I mean, you might have, taxation through citation that's being used in some areas that's, abused. Okay, so Sheriff Jeff Christopher, I highly recommend you read this story. This is an ongoing battle, and he needs our support. The legal fees are mounting, and one way to destroy someone is to do so financially. Connecticut already lost their sheriff, the office of the sheriff, back in 2000. And it wasn't under a Democratic governor, it was under a Republican governor, who later was convicted of federal crimes, kind of financial crimes, and you can Google that. Google Connecticut sheriffs abolished year 2000.
So that they dissolved the office of sheriff.
Remember when the Newtown shooting happened, that tragic incident up in Connecticut, the school shooting, there wasn't a sheriff standing for the microphone, it was state police. Sheriff Mack wrote a book, again you can get this at Richard Mack or sheriffmack.com, wrote a book called The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. And that's really true, because the sheriff is the very last one to stand in the gap there and interpose.
Could it be that the people could then, where they dissolve the sheriff department, they could actually have an election? Or maybe...
Could it be restored? Is that what you're
To
asking?
be restored. Say,
Sure.
Yeah, we want sheriff.
Yeah, the states could take that action, but people have to be educated first in the importance. The state of Alaska does not have sheriffs. I don't believe they were ever set up.
Are you familiar with what happened on JFK celebration with the Sheriff's Department and the Alex Jones protesters?
Not specifically. You want to tell us real briefly?
Well, most people know. I was down there. The protesters wanted to say something about the official story, the official celebration.
Oh, yeah, about being able to be on the...
Right, and the Dallas police let them in beyond one barricade.
Mhm.
They didn't get into the inner sanctum. Everybody was going to be let in an hour or so. And while they were waiting there, the sheriff's department provoked them. They started pushing them. They didn't even give them a warning. They didn't say, you have to clear out of here. They just started pushing physically right away, tried to provoke them, and kept them pushing.
Did anyone here witness that?
It's all over YouTube.
It's on video.
Yeah, Alex Jones is a journalist and he's a camera.
Well, I can assure you as Dallas County Sheriff that wouldn't happen. The First Amendment, so many Americans shockingly don't know the 5 basic rights. So let's talk about those right now. The freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and a lot of people get bogged down, they can't hear others. But press, which because of the internet, we can take news and information directly to people. There's this arrogant discussion, some people in our U.S. Senate and Congress trying to say that bloggers aren't. Yeah, if you start defining things, you can control it. Press, and then the right to redress your grievance, which we've seen that trampled on. For example, the Dallas County Commissioners Court. Yes, sir.
That was a unit of sheriff's deputies under Homeland Security control. I'd like to add
Okay,
that.
well, and I thought that's where you may be going. And I have a real issue with that, and that was discussed at our conference. We've seen the Federal Protective Service vehicles over the years that, when I was a Dallas police officer, you go to federal court and you see the cars at Federal Protective Service. Well, last year or two, they've added this big decal with block letters that says police. Okay? And if you go to the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, it defines who are peace officers. Okay, so I encourage you to Google or go to being.com or whatever, look it up, Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, who are peace officers. Just read those definitions yourself and see if these Homeland Security agents, they drive around in Tahoes, say police on them. I've seen them very recently breaking traffic laws, speeding, just arrogant.
Are they black?
They're white with blue decals. Yes, sir.
They translated that into Arabic, and that's what Al-Qaeda uses as their blueprint.
No, seriously, go to the police and look at a picture of the police car. It's black, Al-Qaeda, and it says police next to it.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, so, I don't know, somebody suggested this is an effort to desensitize the public to a federal police force. And part of removing the office of the sheriff nationwide, you have about 3,000, just under 3,100 sheriffs in the country. Counties, the county sheriff.
Where did Texas
Texas Rangers are investigative branch, under the Texas Department of Public Safety, basically part of our executive branch to the governor. And we need to elect governors who stand on the right side of these things too. Yes, sir.
What is that website again, for the police?
You'll have to search it, Texas Code of Criminal Procedure.
Oh.
Yeah, who are police. Now, federal agents can be given the authority to enforce state law, but that's a delegated authority. It's not just an absolute right. It can be taken away too. If you have a governor who wants to help stand in the gap. And the sheriff has made clear in the Matt Prince decision, these aren't my words, this is the law of the land. It's the chief law enforcement officer in the county. The acronym that's actually used in that Supreme Court case is CLEO, or CLEO, that stands for Chief Law Enforcement Officer. And there's other officials in the county, you'll hear a county judge or a DA say, I'm the Chief Law Enforcement Officer. But when it comes down to enforcing the law, the CLEO, it's stated here, that's the county sheriff. Okay, so another case that, in addition to Sheriff Christopher's, that's still ongoing, this really is amazing to me because back in June of 2013, this particular individual had no idea what the CSPOA was, never heard of it. It's a sheriff in Florida, his name is Nick Finch. And I love it, he's in Liberty County, Florida. So search him on the internet and read everything you can about this case. This is huge. And again, another case of a Republican governor making a huge mistake. And basically, this sheriff interposed on behalf of one of the citizens of his county. He was it's kind of a semi-rural county, and this guy was just driving along in his truck on a rural road, and kind of a bumpy road, and he said the sheriff's driven that road himself. It's kind of hard to hold the lane anyway. One of his deputies pulled the guy over and noticed the guy had a firearm of some sort in the vehicle. And I don't know if it was a long rifle, I'm assuming it was. He was lawfully carrying that weapon. And by the way, how many of you are part of the open carry? You mentioned bring your AR. Yeah, that's really gaining ground in communities all over Texas. Again, this is a revolution. It's reintroducing, refamiliarizing, reclaiming what we've always had. It's never changed. Right to keep and bear arms. And I talked to a candidate for Texas Senate yesterday in favor of open carry, constitutional carry. And I agree. I think the Second Amendment is very clear. I mean, it's extremely clear. I don't believe in all this concealed handgun licensing nonsense and registries and all that. But anyway, it really chaps me that when I go to Arizona to visit family, they can carry openly out there. I walk into a supermarket and, not a gun-free zone. But here in Texas, there's a lot of education to be done. And part of that can be done when people see law-abiding citizens walking down the street with a long rifle slung over their shoulder. It's a beautiful sight. We're on an overpass. And I said, go for it. We paid for those overpasses, right? We pay for those DHS vehicles, and those up-armored whatevers that they, 16-ton trucks they really need.
You go to the Chevrolet dealership there at Arapahoe and 75, you just go in the back, you've got brand new vehicles, probably 50 to 60 every single week coming through. Police packages, black and white.
The CSPOA got involved in the legal defense for this. In this case, Sheriff Finch refused to charge this individual. The deputy asked the man, "Do you have any other weapons?" And he said, "Yeah, I've got a gun in my pocket." And the deputy arrested him for carrying a handgun without a permit. Now, the Dallas Police Academy was good enough. They taught us enough about the Constitution to know about, bad arrests and good arrests. And this deputy really took it to the limit there. The sheriff was notified. He was at dinner and went down to jail and cut the guy loose. He said, "I believe the Second Amendment. He's not going to be charged, cut him loose." Someone had written the man's name on a log, and they alleged that had been whited out. It really wouldn't matter because the sheriff had the discretion to charge that. Yes, ma'am.
I just had some advice for gun owners. If you're going to a protest, be sure to find out whether or not it's going to be arrestable action, because if people are planning to commit civil disobedience, the police will arrest whoever they want. And even if you're carrying and dotting every I and crossing every T regarding the law, they can bust you anyway. And so if anybody's planning to commit civil disobedience, you should leave your gun at home. And if you're going to carry, be sure that it's a non-arrestable action, that nobody's going to commit CD of any kind. I'm just giving that out as some advice.
Thank you for that. Now, this sheriff was, the word got around that this particular deputy was going to be put under investigation. And so the deputy went to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and told his version of the story, which was apparently had some interesting additions to it. And FDLS, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, or FDLE, came out and arrested Sheriff Finch, put him in his own jail. And the governor, a Republican, Rick Scott, suspended the sheriff. People of Liberty County weren't too happy, and the surrounding counties weren't too happy about that. So anyway, they appointed an interim sheriff, and for 5, 6, or 7 months. It went on, but there was a court case, a trial, and they tried to charge him with official misconduct and destruction of government record and that kind of stuff. There was audible laughter in the courtroom. This judge had to continually ask people to stop laughing because it was just such a farce. He was acquitted on all the charges and was awarded for his courageous stand on behalf of our Constitution. Sheriff Nick Finch was awarded our CSPOA Sheriff of the Year Award. And I got to meet him and his wife. In the plaque, the deputy resigned. He did, yeah, as did several of the senior supervisor captains.
He got his back paid too, but.
But they went back out, get this, the state attorney, which would be like our AG, went back out and they re-arrested the man who had been stopped in traffic. So now I'm hearing that there's a citizen grand jury process in Florida to bring charges against the state attorney and the assistant state attorney and the governor. And, you know, I've read some critiques of this. They say that Governor Scott is just trying to posture so that, you know, try to get Democrat votes the next time around, show that he wasn't quite so strong on the Second Amendment. And by doing so, he violated the law. Yeah, and who knows, may have committed a criminal act. But the plaque reads, "For exemplary service to the people of Liberty County and for the courage to stand for America, the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officer Association proudly names Nick Finch its 2014 Sheriff of the Year and is hereby inducted into the CSPOA Hall of Fame, dated this 24th day of January 2014, which was last Friday." Of course, we all If you're on Facebook, I would ask you to find Sheriff Nick Finch and send him a message. Just tell him you're thankful for what he did and standing up for our Constitution. Yes, sir.
I would applaud anyone in Florida who stands up for the Constitution. I grew up in Florida.
Oh, you did?
And it is one of the most corrupt states in the Union.
There aren't too many places left, you know, there's so much corruption even right here in Texas. And I mentioned how many sheriffs from around the country say they look to Texas for leadership, and they ask me, what's going on in Texas? Sheriff Mack even moved to Texas and lived here for a few years. And he was disappointed there wasn't more, you know, outpouring of support from various sheriffs. We had 2 or 3 at this conference from Texas, including the one I will tell you about. So those are 2 courageous sheriffs among many. There was another one there. He's a police chief actually from New Mexico. He was traveling to the conference with a sheriff from the county just south of New Mexico. And they were harassed by the TSA at the Albuquerque airport. And just a really disgusting display of arrogance. And even after they knew who they weren't carrying their weapons or anything. They weren't trying to do anything but go through security like we would. And this one TSA supervisor got in his face and was, you know, very heated. And the Albuquerque airport police officers who knew these guys had to intervene, actually separate the TSA supervisor and this. This is a peace officer of the state in which they're standing. And this arrogant fill in the blank wants to. And then after they got to the gate, they were sitting there, and some guy from the TSA comes up with a camera and starts taking their picture and writing notes in their face, you know, to intimidate them. And so that might be another case that there's more to it that I can't tell you. It's kind of a developing situation, but if you could go to cspoa.org and join, or fill out the form, and if anybody wants to write a check for the membership tonight, I'm going to mail all those in. I'll be collecting those. Or if you want to go online and do it. I just want you to know this is the organization that will go to bat for those county sheriffs and peace officers who are willing to stand up. Some of you may have recalled the deputy sheriff in New York State last year who intervened on behalf of the 2 young people, a young man and a woman who were passing out flyers to the traveling public, educating them of their rights and go through screening at the TSA. And this guy, he was an airport administrator, tried to throw him out. Did you see that video?
Yeah.
Sheriff deputy intervened. He was our 2013 deputy sheriff of the year. And I met him in St. Charles, Missouri, and consider him a personal friend now. And this organization, by highlighting these efforts, plants a seed in the mind of a peace officer that I can be right then. I might even be arrested, like Sheriff Finch. I mean, if you're the sheriff of your county, you could be arrested. What's to think a patrol officer who couldn't be arrested? And very well could come to that. As you said, you could be arrested for standing on an overpass or, you know, exercising your First Amendment right. So you have to be willing to do what's right.
What was Sheriff Finch charged with when he was arrested?
I believe it was, I don't know the Florida statute, but it was basically
Interference.
what did I say earlier? No,
It was interference with some kind of.
official misconduct, I guess, is the blanket term. Yeah, official misconduct is what I claim, but the elements of the offense were, that's why people were laughing in the courtroom, because they couldn't prove that. Just to finish up, we then had an excellent presentation from Chris Sandoval. And how many of you are familiar with him? Yes, on February 10th. Okay, this is a big one because part of our ongoing educational effort is to daily read our Constitution, carry these books with us, and know them so you can quote them from memory. It's pretty disarming when a peace officer is violating his constitutional right, perhaps through ignorance, because they went to one of those police academies that doesn't really teach the Constitution. We're going to try to fix that. But when you can read them from memory, the statute or Constitution, and just ask questions. If you ask questions, You're not really as threatening, you just ask them, what authority do you have? You can quote the law to them, that's pretty disarming. Oh, I better go get a supervisor, I don't know. Maybe they just make them stop and think. It would be. Because they could end up in a federal court having violated your constitutional rights. It's a pretty serious matter. But Chris Hall gave an awesome presentation, as she always does. This one was catered to ongoing efforts of the CSPOA to draft a document, a proclamation, if you will, that we put the finishing touches on. And I can't release that to you. This is the first draft, but it's a Declaration of Rights by United Sheriffs and Peace Officers of America. It's basically a statement of the things that we as members of the CSPOA and that we would hope that all peace officers across America would sign on to. Things like the following abuses will no longer be allowed or tolerated. And these aren't the exact words because it was modified, but just so you'll know the topics that we covered. Registration of personal firearms, or systematized confiscation of firearms under any circumstances. Random audits or searches of a citizen's personal affairs or finances without probable cause in any process. Random inspection of farms, ranches, personal businesses without probable cause or duly signed warrants as required by the Fourth Amendment. Detainment and search of citizens without probable cause or the informed consent of the citizen. Arrests or incarcerations without charging and complete due process, including public and speedy jury trials. As I read these, you're probably thinking of Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, and so forth. Arrests or, domestic utilization of our nation's military against American citizens. And someone was talking about the most recent NDAA. There was something about posse comitatus in relation to the DHS, and if these vehicles that are out desensitizing us, that they are our police, are the first indication of that, or one of many. Sheriff's deputies being under control of whatever that means. I don't know how your sheriff's deputies come under control of DHS. That will never happen when I'm sheriff. Feds know, for example, that Sheriff Joe Arpaio's county, Maricopa County. I just visited him a couple months ago in Phoenix. They have joint task force, for example. I went out with the unit that deals with human smuggling. There's federal agents and Maricopa County Sheriff's deputies, but everybody there knows clearly who's in charge, and it's the deputies, not the other way around.
What about the issue of foreign troops that are in the United States?
Right, and this document was, those issues came up, and then in the final draft, and if you're of the opinion that, if you want to express an opinion about inclusion of a particular item in that, I would encourage you to email Sheriff Mack. Just go to the CSPO website, there's an informational section where you can submit that, or send it to my email address, which is kirk@planetkirk.com. It's KIRK@PLANETKIRK.com, and I'll forward it to him. That's excellent. So I just wanted you to know this is the type of effort, so I'm going to try to wrap this up quickly. These are the kind of efforts that your support, your donations will help to continue. Because Sheriff Mack has been carrying a lot of this on his back. He founded the organization, but he'll be the first to tell you this is not about Sheriff Mack. He was so pleased at this conference for the first time he saw that even if he went away, that the organization would really continue on. And that was a big part of the discussion. Where do we want it to go from here? And this was not a big public convention like some of the others have been. This is more of a workshop. We saw some real leaders step forward. One of the people, let me just finish up about Chris Hall. She has a radio show every day. And, I would encourage you to read this, but just as we're having a discussion, it helps you cement in your mind what the key issues are. Through debate, what do they say about steel sharpening steel? It's okay, sometimes we get a little passionate and raise our voices and whatnot, but it's all meant to increase our understanding. And I really value that. That's why I come to this group. Well, she does that daily. On Monday through Friday, you can find it at soundcloud.com/Chris N. Hall. Soundcloud.com is a site that archives all kinds of audio radio shows. So soundcloud.com/Chris Ann Hall. She travels constantly. She was in Las Vegas on Friday. She flew to St. Louis to teach a group up there. And then tomorrow, today she flew back to Tucson, and she's actually teaching at the University of Arizona tomorrow. And she is getting massive hits on the internet. More, well, I won't say that. There's just some statistics out there about who is the most listened to, and she's passed somebody very recently that is very well known. So, and to be able to actually teach at the University of Arizona is a hopeful sign. Because we know our universities have been invaded by wrong elements over the last few decades. On Sundays, her show is on the Genesis Communications Network. I know there's some other radio talk show people there. Is it the Power Hour on there? So GCNlive.com, and you can access all kinds of great shows on there. But if you do /programs and Chris Ann Hall, I'm sorry, just Chris Ann for that one. So it's GCNlive.com/programs/Chris Ann. You can listen to her Sunday shows. So she does a radio show every day except Saturday. She has a husband and a small son, so she's really sacrificing a lot of her time. She was a Russian linguist in the Army, speaks Russian, which is pretty cool because in college I was an exchange student in the Soviet Union. So I've actually lived in a communist country. And this was in 1989. And I don't speak much Russian, but I speak enough that I thought that was really cool when I learned she's a Russian linguist. And she's a constitutional lawyer. She was a prosecutor in Florida, not far from where Sheriff Finch lives. And she's just a fireball. I mean, she knows her stuff. She's coming to Texas, and I want all of you to come. We have to carpool. She's so awesome. February 10th, which is a Monday, it's going to be hosted by the Northeast Tarrant Tea Party. And what's her name? Julie McCarty?
Yes.
The host.
She's also coming to the John Rich Society lunch. It's the second Tuesday.
Is that on the same day?
Second Tuesday, so the next.
Oh, the next day,
yeah,
probably the
so,
11th.
yeah, I'll have to check. I'll check the dates and I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, you gotta see her, listen to her. I believe, what's going to be in the evening? If you go to netarrantteaparty.com, it stands for Northeast Tarrant Tea Party. So the website is netarrantteaparty.com. And the topic will be on the Constitution and mixing politics and religion, so it won't be controversial. I love Chris Ann, she's the best.
She also, look her up on Facebook. She puts something out daily.
Yeah. She was actually, I think she was fired by the DA in her county because she was out teaching the Constitution to groups on her own time. And he just didn't have her do that. And I think he lost in the next election cycle. See, we do have term limits, it's called a ballot box, right? Yes, sir.
Well, that brings up a good question of who has had the ear of law enforcement over the last few decades at least, maybe even going back further than that. We have such things as the MIAC report coming out and certain conferences or seminars held by the Southern
Tell us what that means, just for those who don't know.
I was hoping you would because I know it comes from Missouri, but anyway, as far as the question I'm asking is, now we have been identified who are the terrorists. The terrorists could be right-wing extremists, they could be returning veterans,
sure.
They could be Christians.
Well, Janet Napolitano cleared that up for us, didn't she?
I'm sure she did. Now we have the new report coming out.
I'm in every category.
The Atlantic Institute now has identified that the new threat to the, what did he say, the New World Order? The new threat is empowered individuals. Now my question to you is, how do you get the ear of law enforcement? How do we turn this 180 degrees and refute this information?
When you're out walking and you see a police officer, sheriff's deputy, constable, police officer, I don't know about those DHS people, I don't know what they are, but The ones who've taken the oath and had that training to, yeah, and you mentioned oath keepers too, I'm a member of oath keepers. It's oath keepers at Ord, right?
Yes.
By the way, Stuart Rhodes of Oath Keepers, the founder, is a big participant. He wasn't at this conference, but he was at St. Charles, Missouri last May or June when we had that conference. And the Oath Keeper volunteers from whatever city we're having the conference in always come to help. But, you know, walk up and talk to those officers. You know, my friend who's been in law enforcement here in Dallas for many, many years, we were talking about an incident where a car had crashed and was on fire, and there was one police officer out there, and I rolled up and simply walked up and said, "Can I be of some help?" He didn't know who I was, and he was pretty much just blew me off and was pretty rude. And I didn't let it really get to me. Do you know who I am? No, it wasn't like that, but, you know, thought he might need some help. But my friend said, you know, that's just a shame, because when he joined the Dallas Police Department, it wasn't that way. He said he's noticed that a lot of this wasn't really a young officer, but they get so, you know, sometimes they get jaded and they don't, my friend says he would always accept help if it was within reason, and he needed it, there's nothing wrong with that. So I think by being friendly, walking up and offering an officer a pocket constitution, and not in an arrogant way like, you never learned this in the Constitution, they're police academy, so you need to learn it, but, and giving them a copy, one of these, and I'd encourage you to order these in bulk from CSPOA. It'll help the organization. The only source of funds of the CSPOA is through the sale of the various materials. Get a copy of the DVD. Watch the entire. They have a DVD set for every conference going back to the first one. Amazing speakers. Yes, sir.
Just briefly, my experience has been I've tried to hand police information of different sorts, whether it be an audio cassette tape, a CD, a DVD, or a constitution. Right. And I've been met with, well, we're not allowed to accept things.
Well, that's just ridiculous. You know, an officer can go to a restaurant and get a discount or even free food, which is not supposed to do, and accept that. But, you know, that's just a closed-minded person.
Jimmy has.
I'm sorry.
Jimmy
Well, just a
has.
second.
What percentage, or how many more police officers are there than the sheriff's office?
Dallas Police Department has, they'll say it's up around 4,000. It's significantly less than that. I'd say over 3,000. The Sheriff's Department has something like, I want to say 200 and some, 300 sworn deputies.
Okay, now the police officers are where we're seeing all these terrible atrocities. If you're familiar with what happened in Orange County last week, and we never see those kinds of heinous activities in the Sheriff's Department. We see them quite regularly. They are, but not to the extent.
Well, the sheriff is directly elected by the people. And so, you have a police chief who's appointed. You have to ask yourself, how do they get their job? The city manager is their boss, and that person's not elected. You never have an election for a police chief or a city manager. So they're at least 2 or maybe 3 levels removed from we the people. But a sheriff, the boss of the sheriff is who? We the people. That's why they are the chief law enforcement officer.
But is the sheriff higher on the paperwork in the police department?
Oh, the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer in the county.
Not even the president of the United States can tell the local sheriff.
That's right. And if anyone comes in your county and is violating your rights, you're going to go to Regina's house and institute a search without a warrant. The sheriff is oath bound to stop it. And that's why, whether it's a case of an illegal search or taking someone's children, as I heard happened here recently. Does anyone know the update on the Tutt family? We were talking about that last week.
No, I
You know, where,
don't. I thought maybe.
yeah,
Anything about the Tutt family?
the Texas Homeschooling Association has
His
an update on that. So everybody go Google the Tutt family, look it up. Well, that was a case where I was told that the deputy constables, and I'm going to find out which constable district it was under, went out to the home and took those children. Now that could be a case. Can you see the parallels where a sheriff, a constitutional sheriff, could go out there and interpose and stop that, just like Sheriff Finch did in Florida to protect his citizens' constitutional Second Amendment rights? Could interpose. And that's what you'll see more of if we start electing constitutional
Right,
sheriff.
and education is on.
Doesn't sheriff, though, it's county by county, different county, different member states.
Right, and under, the sheriff is a constitutional office in Texas. And it's not the sheriff's department, it is an office. Department is a subset of something else. There's no such thing. With the sheriff, they are the chief law enforcement officer of the county in which he or she is elected.
The Constitution of Texas then?
Well, you're taking an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and your state constitution as well. So you're right, there are some states like Delaware. I asked Ted Cruz about this. I said, well, Delaware has a fairly weak state constitution on this matter. We need to read our state constitution and know what are the powers. If a sheriff is removed, which that can be, or resigns, how is that spot filled? Is it elected? I'm told that it can be appointed an interim sheriff. And so if our sheriff in this county resigned, who would we get? Our county commissioners could appoint maybe the same constable who went out there and took the kids from the Tuck family. Great. Now we have an unelected sheriff. So you see the importance of these safeguards. The other people in this, I'll just wrap this up, that were in attendance, Larry Pratt, Executive Director of Gun Owners of America. His website is gunowners.org. He's at every conference. I've gotten to know him very well. If you like what the NRA does, you'll really like, this group is just great. They really go the extra mile. Michael Connolly, our local constitutional expert, who lives here in the Dallas area. He's the executive director of the U.S. Justice Foundation. He was there again. The website is usjf.net. Connolly was there. And this goes back to what I opened with. Remember the Constitution in Article 1, Section 8, back in the Second Amendment, it had that M word, militia. So is that something we're making up?
No.
Is this crazy Texas people talking about this?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Talking about it.
I'll take that. I'll be crazy and die free. Well, the organization called Institute on the Constitution, which is Michael Parika's group, the one that's offering the Constitution training classes, they produced this video on Sheriff Christopher, the Delaware sheriff I told you about. They made some really great videos. This one is Dr. Edwin Vieira. Oh my gosh, this is like the best video I've ever seen. I got so excited. I was driving back from St. Louis with my friend, who's a peace officer here locally. We were actually watching this in the car on the laptop. I think I played it 3 times between St. Louis and here. And it's Dr. Edwin Vieira. He has like 3 degrees from Harvard. He is not only an expert on the militia of the several states. This is the constitutional militia, not these grassroots private militias that have no lawful authority whatsoever, but the ones that are actually spoken over the Constitution, and they're a governmental body. And we should screen this sometime where you can all come watch. But that's his name, Vieira, Dr. Edwin Vieira. And just Google his name, and there's an article called True versus False Militia, and why the difference matters. You need to know that. Because the open carry movement is very visible, and thank God for that. But I don't even like to call it the militia movement, because nothing has ever changed going back to colonial times. It's never been altered. It exists in our Constitution. People who just the agents of misinformation want you to believe that it's something outrageous or fringe, and it's not. So Dr. Edwin Vieira completely dissects this in about an hour and a half presentation. And it's called Constitutional Homeland Security. A call for Americans to revitalize the militia of the several states. Can you read that title again for me?
Sure. First Friday lecture series, Constitutional Homeland Security. A call for Americans to revitalize the militia of the several states.
A call for Americans to, what? Have a revolution? Create something out of thin air? No, revitalize. Can you revitalize something that...
Never existed?
Yeah, it's been there all along. And this guy has the degrees to back him up, so not all of our higher education people are misguided. So Dr. Edward Beer, okay, my final name that you must know, and I want her to come up to speak. She is just the best. Pam Elliott is that sheriff I was telling you about in Edwards County, Texas.
Where's Edwards County?
It's west of Kerrville. And she's going to wonder where all this email from Dallas is. She's on Facebook under Edwards County Sheriff. And you can also go to the website edwardscountytexas.us/sheriff/sheriff.htm. Just Google Sheriff Pam Elliott. Now, why is she noteworthy? Well, first of all, she was not only a U.S. Marine, but she's an Army veteran as well. She served many, many years. I think she had multiple tours in Afghanistan. She was a police officer in, I believe it was Glendale, Arizona. She was handpicked by the sheriff down there, who was going to retire soon, who wanted her to be the sheriff. I think her family lives in Beaumont, but she and her husband wanted to buy some land, and prices got better as he got out west, and they settled on that area, got to know the sheriff. And her election was 6 days after the end of her deployment. She didn't even have time to campaign. She had met the members of the county. They wanted her to be their sheriff. She never got to meet her opponent, but she won. And this article
Legal
says,
voting?
say what?
Legal voting?
No, they were very well informed. She just was serving her country and wasn't able to campaign. Edwards County, Texas Sheriff Pamela Elliott supports the militia, so why won't you? This was posted back in April. She became sheriff just under a year ago. It says, introducing Edwards County, Texas Sheriff Pamela Elliott. This patriot rocks. She's one of the few, the proud, who honor their oaths to the United States Constitution. She's one smart cookie, too. I look at it this way. If Sheriff Pam ever needed to round up a posse for search and rescue or for any other law enforcement purpose, she would have more help than she knew what to do with in practically a moment's notice. Besides having the Edwards County Militia branch of the Texas Militia at the beck and call, she would have the entire Texas State Militia to back up as well. That's what I call having a backup plan. One smart cookie would just say. The whole point of sharing this information here with you is this. Mainstream liberal media has demonized the militia of the several states. And again, those of you who might want to be watching this and want to poke holes in our truthful balloon here, just read and listen to what Dr. Beer has to say. And as we said in the Navy, shut your pipe hole. I don't want to hear the ignorant, what do we say, if you want freedom and ignorance, they basically can't coexist. There's people that will watch this and try to say we're the extreme. Well, the militia of the several states is a constitutional concept. We're just reminding our citizenry that we have this tool at our disposal. And it may very well be our last defense, under the leadership of constitutional sheriffs and a constitutional governor, on a state-by-state basis, as Ellen pointed out. Okay? The whole point of sharing is that the mainstream liberal media has demonized the militias to the point they make us sound like the outlaws. That's who that comment was directed to. It's a tactic. When it is the illegal government officials who are the ones outside of the law. We support a constitutional militia as defined by the United States Constitution and as clarified by Dr. Beer. Contrary to the liberalized propagation of the Second Amendment being about hunting deer, or fur hogs, or whatever you like to shoot, it has nothing to do with hunting. Read the Second Amendment. Find out what it really says. Sheriff Pam supports militia. Again, that's the militia of the several states, the constitutional right. So why don't you? And you know, she admitted in front of the crowd. By the way, she has volunteered to be on the board of directors of the CSPOA. And I'm so thrilled because she's female, she's young, we need, all that youthful energy. And it just offered me a lot of hope to say, things aren't good in Dallas County, but we do have a sheriff in Texas. And there are others, we just need to find them. So that's pretty much it. I think you've got a pretty good view of what happened in Las Vegas and how.
What was the website for her again?
Her best place to find her is on Facebook I do have a website, but on Facebook, just put in Edwards County Sheriff, and it'll come up on
Probably
Facebook.
if you search it, you'll find it.
Yeah, just Google.
Just search it, because, and, we're glad we had you. I'm sorry it got a little late for everybody.
Yeah, I might
It's amazing
voice out
how
now.
much longer. No, you did fantastic. No, you did.
Please pick up a copy of this, they're $1 piece. And if you have the membership form as well. And can I just leave this here?
Totally, leave it.
Little
Answer
white
any
book,
questions.
do you have some we can
Oh,
purchase?
I'm sorry.
No, this is the
Um,
victory for
I'm
state.
sorry. Albert had a question.
Yes, sir.
I want to let you know, I found the friendliest sheriff and to get a opportunity for you to go and talk to them. Because I introduced them to GCN, through some of the show, through the Power Hour, Sheriff Mack was talking, and I played the recording for one of the sheriffs. He was very happy about it. They are very easy to talk to. They are at Whole Foods after 6 o'clock at North Dallas on Beltline and the tollways.
Okay.
And you can go talk to them. They are very nice and they're very open for any suggestions that we can offer.
Basically, if a policeman from Dallas and a sheriff's deputy are there, the sheriff can order the policeman?
Yep.
Well, I'm asking him, not you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I worked with Dallas sheriff's deputies when I patrolled southeast, because we have areas of the county that are unincorporated. So you have mobile home parks, for example, where the trailer might be in Dallas City, and the fight started over here, but it ended up in the county, so we would, collaborate.
But this,
Never had any
we're in Dallas
frictions,
County
but-
right now. Not friction, is there a Trump thing going on?
Yeah, I mean, the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer. If there's a matter of constitutional law, the sheriff is going to settle that. It's going to be, the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of the county. If you have a police officer who's violating, or even a sheriff's deputy within his own department, violating a constitutional right, the law, then the sheriff, and all of us are peace officers, the police officer and the deputy are peace officers. They've all taken that oath to support and defend, but the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer. You'll rarely see that because it's just, that's a matter of communication. It's not going to be, I can't think of an incident where I observed that on the street down.
That's two real basic questions.
I understand your technical question.
Well, it's not technical. So basically, if you get this job, what are the basic duties of the sheriff's department? Do they sit around in the fire department all day, or what do they do? The police, you can see them doing them. I never see them.
Yeah, well, the biggest duty, the budget provides for, it's the 7th largest jail in the country. So a big part of what the sheriff does is run the county justice center. But also the sheriff, I've listed those various duties on this flyer. I'll give you a copy. The website is kirkfordallas.com. It's K-I-R-K.
And again, how many are there?
Dallas.com.
There's 3,000 more police. How many sheriffs?
Deputies, about several hundred. Hundreds versus several thousand will be Dallas police officers. But the sheriff, as Sheriff Arpaio in Maricopa County, has an auxiliary of 3, almost, maybe it's more than 4,000 now, of volunteers who undergo special training. I mean, they're already part of the militia as defined in the Constitution. Okay. Whether you call them a posse or an auxiliary, they do everything from search and rescue. There's even a home builder out there who owns his own helicopter, who allows his helicopter to be used for search and rescue. They have scuba posse, photography posse, anything special skills are grouped, and geographic posses as well. That's not utilized to any extent in this county, and I would like to change that.
I'm going to call the meeting to an end, but I'm sure he'll talk to you guys.
This is
tomorrow.
relevant to his question real quick.
Okay.
With regard to that, that balancing act there, where does state police come in on this?
Well,
Where do they sit in authority?
The sheriff is the chief law enforcement of the county, officer in the county.
That's in the county, but what's like?
So if a state trooper or Dallas police officer in your county, okay, or a federal agent, okay, the sheriff can go to any of them and say, I need to be aware of what your activities are. They can even tell a federal agent, for example, you need to get my permission, basically.
What is this? Who hires state troopers? Who delegates their authority?
Texas Department of Public Safety.
Public safety. Okay.
the reason we're stopping,
They're all-
we got a halt, only because, you know, we're supposed to be finished
Thanks so
really
much.
next. No, let's get over there. Thank you.
You have signed up for it for the militia?
We'll have our meeting next week. It's really important to hand out these flyers, and you can help hand us more, about people coming to the city hall and being in the audience for Fluoride Day. Okay, so come and get them for me. How's that? Okay, thank you for coming, everybody. Meeting is adjourned, but please talk if you want to.